With the wrong lease, you lose. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't understand how to handle a lease, you've got to consult a legal professional. Otherwise, it could come back to bite you. That's why I've got a special guest here today. Her name is Sherry Wortman, and she's going to help us understand how to negotiate a lease as you start your new business or expand your existing company, and how to make sure that you don't get boxed in and lose the flexibility that you need to go ahead and grow your business in the future. Again, Sherry Wortman, she's from McHenry, Hazard, Hanson, Roth, and Hupp. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. Sherry, I know you're an expert on leases, and leases are troublesome. So many people have trouble getting them right, and they don't quite know how, what they're supposed to include, or how important a role they play, really, in their financial stability and the momentum of their business as years unfold. Just in your personal experience, I know you counsel hundreds of small business people in the Nebraska area. What's the big problem that people have with leases? Why are they such a troublesome issue in our lives?
I think that a lot of times small businesses are excited about running their business, and they're not focused on or not understanding all of the complex terms that are involved many times in a commercial lease, which can be very expensive to their business.
So we let emotion kind of carry us forward, especially at that time when we've maybe saved money for years and we've made the commitment to go ahead and start our own business. And so emotions are running high anyway.
Yes.
Right? We're urgent to get in there.
Right.
And we don't take the time to really examine the details. And what are some of the details that tend to surface in leases that are in fact troublesome, that we say, well, I didn't read on page 4, I didn't know anything about that? What would that be? What would be an example of that kind of thing?
Well, for example, a lot of commercial leases are triple net leases.
Triple net.
That's right.
All right, that's an important phrase.
It is an important phrase, and small businesses sometimes don't understand that in addition to the rent that they're paying, they're also going to be responsible for the taxes, the insurance, and a share of the general expenses, which can be
of the building that they're moving into.
Of the building, which can be unknown and changing. And so it's important to visit with an attorney and know the details and the actual costs that lease is going to result in for their business.
They kind of have to project it out.
Yes.
And anticipate if sales go up, if sales go down, what will the lease be?
And most commercial leases are a long-term commitment, so it's basically like taking out a loan. And if you think of how many thousands of dollars you're paying per month, and then you take that times 5 years, which a lot of commercial leases are, it can be a significant investment for the business.
You know, Sherry, you were talking to me about triple net leases. I know that's a very common type of lease, and people struggle with that. Give me an example of what that would include and how people struggle with triple net leases.
Well, we talked about some of the components that are included in a triple net lease, and unfortunately sometimes business owners are excited about their business and they enter into that lease without taking that into account. For example, I had a restaurant owner, had a very good business, but it was clear to me that he did not understand the terms of that triple net lease, and it became hundreds of thousands of dollars in discrepancies that the lease owner thought that he owed, and for what the business owner thought he owed.
Now let me back up. You said $100,000?
Yes.
It was a $100,000 mistake?
It was more than $100,000 mistake.
Oh my goodness.
And so obviously a small restaurant, that's a significant amount of money.
Wow.
And we were able to negotiate a acceptable circumstance to both parties, or maybe not so acceptable, but it was a frightening responsibility for the business owner.
Fantastic. I had no idea it could be that big of a deal on triple net leases. Wow. Now, if there were a commercial real estate or a property manager here and he were chatting with us about this subject, what recommendations would he make to us, or she for that matter? What would they tell us about the problems as far as from their point of view that initial entrepreneurs need to be aware of?
Well, they need to understand that in a commercial lease, all of the terms and rights and obligations are in that document. So anything that's requested or said by the business owner or by the lessor for that matter, they are meaningless unless they are written down inside the 4 corners of that document.
And isn't that fairly common when there's negotiations going on?
Yes.
Somebody who owns a building or manages some property may in fact imply or even promise that certain things will be done to the property, and sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. Is that common?
That's correct. Or it can be just a simple misunderstanding, but if it's not in the document, no one should be relying on it.
Right, exactly. Well, let's go through a few of the other components that people need to pay special attention to, and tell me specifically, when somebody brings you a lease, and they're smart enough to do that, Sherry, what do you look for immediately? All these different variable costs that you just mentioned to me? What else?
Costs are the most important thing that I look for. I also look for the options for updating the lease space to make sure the lease space has options available for the business owner. I look for options for renewing the lease for the business owner, because let's say, for example, you have a small business come in, they're very successful, their customer base is going to rely upon their location.
They know they're at that location,
right.
And then all of a sudden what can happen?
The lessor can end the lease if the lease terms over.
Or raise the price?
Or raise the price significantly.
Right, and that would be very troublesome. It'd be like starting over with your business.
In
if
some
you were
ways,
forced
yes.
to leave. Absolutely. Well, is there something that you do, and what is the average person when they contract with your law firm, how long does it take to get a lease arrangement negotiated, modified, signed off on? Is it a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months? How does it unfold?
It really depends on the cooperation of all parties.
Yeah.
If you have an active, engaged business owner and you have an active, engaged lessor, you could get it done in a few days, potentially, so long as the attorneys are also available to make the revisions. But business owners need to understand that it may take time, but it is so worth the time to make sure that they are in a lease that they can afford and will not be a detriment to the success of the business.
Yeah, become instead of an asset, be working against you.
That's right.
Right. What would you suggest to somebody when they come in and they call you and say, "Hey, I want you to do this lease for me, but I'm ready to move in tomorrow"? What is your general advice to them? Is it let's hold off and see if we can't get some leverage insofar as our negotiations, or okay, I'll speed it up and try to slam the deal home, or what?
My advice is we need to take the time to review it and make sure it's right for you, and we can sometimes do that quickly and sometimes we can't. It just really depends, and we just have to take the amount of time that's necessary to make sure they're getting a fair deal that's right for their business. And sometimes there isn't any changes that need to be made, everything's fine, but most of the time that's not the case. It's usually not that simple.
Oh, really? So most of the time you do have to do some negotiations and some modifications to the standard lease agreement, is that right?
That's right.
That's the common thing.
Even if they're small.
Now, Sherry Wortman, let me wrap up by asking you, in a recessionary cycle, when things are a little bit different out there, and commercial property owners, obviously, they're a little more hungry for tenants or leasees, I guess. Do they have more negotiating flexibility? Is there a demand and supply factor, or do they seem to be just pretty much set? What's your personal experience?
I would say that there's always a demand-supply issue, and there's always a negotiation room, so long as both parties feel like the agreement's fair to them.
Well, Sherry Wortman, you've mentioned to me that you have to be unafraid to walk away when you're negotiating a lease up front. I know we got all excited and we want to be in our new building or in our new space and so on, and we submit the lease terms to our attorney like yourself, and there's not a lot of negotiating room. Things aren't really going the way we were hoping it would go, right? And you're suggesting that just go ahead and walk away? This is your dream. This is your business. You've been trying to get this going. Tell me how does that work?
Well, unfortunately, it can become a business owner nightmare if they enter into an obligation that their business can't afford. It can be the failure of their business. And so when you review the costs, and you have to be realistic about then applying those costs to your business plan, and don't be afraid to walk away. I had a very talented hairstylist who had a dream for her lease space when she came in with the lease.
Probably had all the furnishings planned and the style and the look of the salon, all that, right?
Yes, she absolutely did. And she's, like I said, very talented. And so she would think that this would be great, and she'd have a significant customer base.
Sure.
Well, when she found out how much the cost could be, no matter how great or talented she was not going to be able to afford it. To be profitable. And she ended up walking away. And it was very difficult for her, but now she's successful in a much less expensive commercial leasing situation.
That's our final bit of wisdom from Sherry Wortman at McHenry Hazard here in the Lincoln area. My name is Lynn Hinderocker. I want to know that for sure that this is the information that you need. Please let us know. We're here at NxBizsuccess. We're focusing on clarifying lease agreements right now with Sherry Wortman. Please see us again. NxBizsuccess. Thanks for watching.